Hello, I'm the Prince. Well, normally I don't do reaction content on this channel. I actually want to do something fun where I do some type of reaction content, specifically to like animations and trailers that the community and just Games Workshop in general has like promoted. And I want to break those animations down, whether those are fan animated or company made, and give you guys like just a general overview of like what happens in those animations, what you guys are looking at. Because I've seen a lot of people, particularly a lot of VTubers and Twitch streamers, watching a lot of these Warhammer trailers, especially like Astartes and all those things, and raising so many questions as to like what are these characters, what is going on. So you know what? I decided I would go through some of the most popular ones, some of my favorite ones anyway, break those down and give you guys basically a lore breakdown of what those things are. Now, hopefully I'll try to get this video down to like maybe 30 minutes, but if it goes a little bit longer than that, make sure to get mad at me in the comment section below. Overall though, this is what you guys need to know when it comes to the Astartes animation. So, let's begin. So, what the Argosa uprisings are is, from what I understand, a totally made up fan creation by the creator of the Astartes project. What I understand is this was basically just a piece of lore that he himself created for his chapter, which are the Retributors. This Astartes animation focuses on the Retributors chapter, and we'll get to them in a moment. But basically, what you guys are seeing right now, this is not. This has never been said before in Warhammer canon, Warhammer 40k's canon, but it has become something canon now because the very fact that the creator of Astartes was actually hired by Games Workshop, the company that makes Warhammer, and now all of his stuff has been retroactively made canon. So this stuff is not like this is a fan project. This was made with a fan's love and passion, and he was able to get hired by Games Workshop and got his stuff on there. His custom guys, the guys that he painted, are now part of Games Workshop's canon, of part of the Warhammer 40k universe. And that's one of my favorite things about the setting and the company, even though they have questionable questionable business practices. But let's get back to the video, and we'll get to further breaking down what you guys need to know about the Astartes. All right. So what this thing is right here is a Space Marine strike cruiser. I believe this is either a Luna class or this might just be a Luna class. This is basically this is a strike cruiser. So think of these very much like first response vehicles. So whenever there's, say, a military engagement needs to happen and you need people on the ground, boots on the ground as soon as possible, you send in a strike cruiser. That's what these are. They usually can carry around 100 of the highly most skilled soldiers in humanity's empire inside the Imperium of Mankind. And so 100 soldiers may not seem a lot, but you guys will get to, as we get through this animation, you guys will figure out why the only 100 is necessary to accomplish a task. But yeah, so that's what this ship is. Right here. So these are the heavy elite infantry units of the Empire of Mankind. So these are the Astartes, and we'll get to what they do just a little bit, but you guys can actually see just from the room that they're in that they are very tall. So Space Marines are typically around 8 to 9 feet tall in armor. Outside of armor, they're usually around 7.5 to 8 feet tall. So just the right height for a woman to actually want to date them. And to add to other desirable features, the Space Marines also are known to be superhumanly strong. Like when I mentioned that they are strong, don't think like Captain America, like they just have a chiseled body. They're just generally really really strong. No, these guys are as wide as they are tall. These guys are thick, and not just that, but they are very hard to put down. Like think Wolverine's healing factor from X-Men combined with the Hulk's brute strength, and then like on top of that, they also kind of do have unbreakable bones like Wolverine. Like Space Marines are some of the toughest soldiers, and you guys will be able to see the height difference coming up right here. So let's step back just a second, back to that one part. So I'll see if I can pause at the right time. I did. Okay. So these guys right here, these are just general humans, and you can already see the size comparison. Like this guy, he's probably like 5'10", probably like 6 foot, and he only comes up to he doesn't even come to the Space Marine shoulder pauldron. Like these guys are massive in size. But the point is that the point I'm trying to specify here is that the regular human here, he has a job just as much as the Space Marines do. Now, while he might not be on the front lines fighting and dying, Well, he might. You don't know. He might be able to pick up a gun. His job is to be a chapter serf. So his job is to service the Space Marines basically as like a glorified maid, attendant, engineers in some cases. Like it basically depends on the Space Marines themselves. Some Space Marines might view their serfs as respected individuals, as people that they can like almost not so much equals, but you have a job to do and I have a job to do. Your job is to do this, my job is to do that. You're good at this, I'm good at that. And that's the maximum amount of like animosity between them. And then you have other chapters that would brutalize and abuse their serfs. Where being a serf is tantamount to like, you know, where being a serf is basically tantamount to like criminal punishment. Like it's that bad. The conditions are just that brutal. But clearly you guys can see from the fact these guys are actually like fully clothed and actually have some armor on their helmets, or they have some helmets rather, that these guys are actually pretty well treated by the standards of other chapter serfs among the Imperium. So this is a hologram. Space Marines usually use these like green holographic images just to kind of get a layout of the land. And as you guys can see, this is the planet that we saw at the start that the Space Marine Strike Cruiser was actually orbiting. And this is the Space Marine High Command, or at the very least, I'm assuming it is. They might just be like regular standard officers because this guy doesn't have any notable features or markings that would make you see him as a captain or lieutenant or even like a chapter master, for example. So this here is Space Marines inside of what appears to be a boarding torpedo. I've always assumed that's what it was. It might have been something else, but basically what happens is that in space combat, if a Space Marine ship wants to engage with another Space Marine ship, they will basically take the Space Marines, put them inside of these like missiles, basically it's hollow missiles, and those missiles will actually fly and impact into the enemy spacecraft, and then immediately have the Space Marines just emerge out of words. Now imagine like a single one of these guys. He's like 9 foot tall, Captain America's in Iron Man armor running at you inside your ship. Like that's not good for anyone. Now imagine like five, six, seven, 10 of them even, right? And here we have the Holy Bolter. So the Holy Bolter is the standard infantry weapon of the Space Marines. They got an upgrade recently, but the general concept of them is they are rifles that fire bullets that are about the size of like elephant gun bullets. So like, massive. Like I think they're the size of like, from what I understand, bolters, their size is comparable to a Red Bull can, like at least in terms of like diameter. But at the end of the day, the point of it isn't just the fact that these bullets are massive, but it's the fact that they're actually self-propelled micro rockets. Like literally, imagine a rocket flying at you, hitting you, and then exploding half a second later, like once inside your body. Right here is the Imperial Aquila. So this is the symbol of the Imperium. It's a two-headed eagle. We'll get to that at a later point, perhaps. And then right here is a symbol of the Inquisition, which is a eye. And much like the real world Inquisition, these guys are just as awful. So I just wanted to let that play for a little bit, just so you guys got an idea of what we're seeing here. So these things right here are strapping harnesses. They basically keep the Space Marine in position, so that when the boarding torpedo crashes into the enemy ship, the Space Marines themselves don't get like tossed around like a can of sardines. As well as the fact that we actually see that Space Marines are using this to travel to another ship, as we see at the start. Okay. So from what I understand, I believe this is a Thunderhawk gunship. They are basically the main vehicle of transport for Space Marines outside of drop pods. So that's what this is. This is a boarding torpedo slash drop pod. The Thunderhawk is basically their main. Their more traditional way. We'll say that this is their more traditional way of landing. The drop pod slash boarding torpedo is more like, hey, we need to get on this planet fast and get behind enemy lines and just fuck shit up. So that's where the drop pods come in comparison to the Thunderhawk. These are servitors, I believe. I believe these are drone servitors. They're basically little robots. I'll get to them in a second. They're basically little robots whose job is to protect the drop pod as it's flying into the enemy ship. And typically, the enemy ships have like flat cannons and other means of like firing back, right? So these things, their job is to basically throw themselves in the way and explode and save the ship from getting damaged. Now, it's all well and good, but the issue is that in Warhammer 40k, there's no AI, so there is no clankers, there's no artificial intelligence. So these drones aren't even drones. In fact, these drones are possibly, very likely, have a human brain inside them. Because in Warhammer 40k, because there's no AI, if you want robots, you're going to need to basically make cyborgs and go from there. And in this case of these guys, these are probably drone servitors. They are basically just a brain whose sole purpose is to. It's basically a lobotomized brain whose sole purpose is to detect danger and fly in the way of it. That's literally its whole purpose. Whoever this person was doesn't matter. They are now a drone servitor. And what's interesting, like a lot of people will be like, "Oh, that sounds horrible." Yeah, it is horrible, obviously, but like that's what's necessary for the Imperium to survive. But I should also mention that almost in every situation, those people who become servitors are people who are like the dregs of society. They are people who are criminals, people who have committed some of the worst possible actions imaginable. And so, like, basically, instead of death sentence, they turn you into a servitor. Well, I mean, that's happens to some people. Other people get turned into servitors because they don't want to charge the front lines with a bayonet. But, that's neither here nor there. So you guys just saw it right there. That was the servitor actually sacrificing himself to block the incoming missile fire. But what we're going to see coming up here is exactly how a Space Marine drop pod actually lands on a ship. So yeah, let's just wind that back a little bit and we'll just play it with no speed. So here goes the little servitor guy. He's gone. And then you can see the laser powers up, impacts into the ship, and it burrows right through. So this is the inside of the enemy spaceship, and as you guys can see, these are just standard infantry soldiers. These are just regular humans. Their logo doesn't really matter. From what I understand, it's just a made-up logo insignia to represent the rebel faction. But in 40k, it's not uncommon for one or more human groups to try and separate themselves from the Empire, because, well, to put it lightly, the Empire of Mankind, the Imperium, is a brutally authoritarian dictatorship that a lot of people don't like living in. And so a lot of times, a lot of empires and a lot of military forces actually try to leave. These guys, in some cases. Now, when that happens, it's usually human soldiers, or in the case of this particular animation, Space Marines who get involved. And this is my favorite part in the whole animation. So what we're seeing here is what Space Marines see. So every single one of those highlighted lights is a traitor force, right? Is a traitor individual. These are what Space Marines see at all times. So they literally have like hit scan on at all times. They can see where the enemy is. And if that wasn't crazy enough, because of their hit scan ability, like they should have like Call of Duty hit scan. Basically, if they see an enemy, if they have an enemy in their sights, like let's say they're looking at, we'll say this guy, we'll say Phil. This guy's Phil, right? Let's say a Space Marine aims his bolter at Phil, right? They could be off by like 2 degrees. Their helmet will detect that they're aiming at this individual, and then the helmet will respond to the arm gauntlet on the Space Marine that's holding the gun, and will actually cause the gun to self-correct itself to better line up with the enemy to guarantee the shot. So even though Space Marines are like expert marksmen, like they're some of the best marksmen you can imagine, they still have additional augmentations to guarantee that they'll hit their targets. So these guys do not fucking miss. Well, unless you roll really poorly on your hit roll, but whatever. So yeah, room is totally dark. You can't see anything, and these Space Marines, because of their HUDs, are able to actually take out every single one of the enemies. And because they're so skilled in warfare, especially when it comes to firing shots, every single shot is a kill. Never like Space Marines almost never miss. Like I said that before, they almost never miss. So every single shot is a kill shot. And again, these are bolters, so they fire missiles. They're shooting missiles at you. What happens when a missile hits you? Let's find out. Yeah. So those are bolters. That's what bolters do to people. They blow you up from the inside out. And if you're fighting Space Marines, you definitely don't want to be fighting them because, like, look what happens to you. All right. So this is where things get a little bit more difficult because these guys are obviously regular human soldiers, right? But these guys, these are like Space Marine sized robot people, right? Now, my theory is that they are men of gold, but like that's obviously not what it's going to be. Men of gold are something in Warhammer 40k's like old history that doesn't really matter now or isn't really referenced. But like that's just what I think they are. What you guys need to worry about is the fact that there's a bunch of human soldiers here that are going to attack the Space Marines, and these guys are very clearly important. Now, here's something really funny. Just take a look at this guy, right? This guy's a real fucking asshole. Like this guy's mean, right? But this guy, you saw that, right? He just fucking whipped a guy for no reason. What the fuck? What a fucking asshole. So this isn't really related to 40k in any way, but like take a look at the animation on this guy. Look at this helmet. Like this is when I knew that the creator of the Astartes project was just like incredibly talented. Like look at this. Like all the intricate designs. Number two. This is just a vault door. We'll figure out what's inside of it in a second. All right. So breaking this down, these are the Space Marines running, obviously. But I want to cover two things. One, these insignias. So these are shoulder markings. These, like in the real world military, are basically they dignify rank, and basically your purpose on the battlefield. So what these three arrows are probably battle line. So what battle line means is you're just a standard infantry boots on the ground. You have no special equipment. You're basically like a bog standard soldier. But typically the arrows are actually pointed upwards. Pointed down is something totally new, or at least it's unique to the chapter. Because a lot of things about Space Marines is they are very user friendly. You could put whatever you could design them however you want. You could just put like because on one of my Space Marines, this is just a little bit of a tangent. I put like a metal ring on his back and turned that into an iron halo, and that counts. Like that counts. You can just turn Space Marines however you want, and you can kind of make it how you can kind of make it make sense. So the upside down arrows could be something custom for this guy's chapter for the Retributors themselves. I believe it's because they are a unique military squad. Like this is a unique role in their chapter that uses this upside down marking. This is my favorite part. Ready? Just fucking. This is McCree Deadeye over here. Yeah, that's fucking awesome. Oh, and also, by the way, Space Marines, again, they're superhuman. So, just like Captain America, they can see faster. Yeah, they can just dodge, just sideswiped the rocket launcher. So, this guy right here, he's basically just an augmented human. You can tell that by his eyes. So, let's just go back to that for 1 second. So because this is the year 40,000, because yes, that's what the 40k stands for. These are robot eyes. This guy's probably like pretty mostly cybernetic, and it's pretty common for a lot of people to have augmentations. Typically, these are like, prosthetics because you lost a limb or something. Sometimes they can be given to you as a result of your profession. Like some people require bionic eyes just for their job in particular. I always find this part funny because this guy tried to like snipe Space Marines, but the hilarious thing about Space Marine armor is this stuff is incredibly thick. Like from what I understand, this stuff is like 2 or 3 inches thick, and it's actually made of. It's basically like stronger plating that modern day soldiers use. Like I believe it's like ceramic armor that military soldiers use. Imagine that, but even thicker and even stronger than it already is, right? This is basically like unobtainium fantasy metal bullshit. So that right here, this is an Astartes combat knife. And this is important because these knives are so like the blueprints to get these knives were so difficult. Like when the blueprints to these knives were discovered, the two people who found them were each given control over a planet. Like both people were given a planet because they found the blueprints to a fucking knife. Because the knife was just that much better than like what they already had available to them already. The issue was that it was the size of a giant, so like it was really a short sword, but no one's gonna ask that question. So that guy got blown in half. Let's go back to that just really fast. So yeah, this guy got blown literally in half. His whole bottom half of his body was destroyed. And that's what happens when you fight Space Marines, because again, their bullets explode. This thing hit this guy in his back and it blew it up. Like you don't fight these guys, you run away. And these guys have the right mentality. Just fucking run. Ah, yes, the the Gatling las gun. So it's not actually called a Gatling las gun. I believe this is actually a twin barrel las cannon. I believe, just because the amount of people needed to actually operate it and use it properly. But the concept of a las cannon is, if you guys know Star Wars, it's basically just a laser rifle, right? It just fires beams of energy that impact the enemy and they do damage, right? So let's see what happens when the bolts hit the Astartes right here. So you see every single one of those is a blast from the cannon, and it's actually like scattering some, it's actually slagging his armor. So Space Marine armor, like I said, is incredibly durable, but it can be damaged by a lot of ballistic damage or a lot of heat. Like a lot of focus fire will actually do some damage to it. So this is just it sparking off his armor. And the thing is that las cannons are able to these things are like bunker busters. So the fact that it's hitting him multiple times and he's still standing should really emphasize how strong both the armor is and how powerful the weapons themselves are. This is my favorite part. This is definitely one of my favorite parts right here. Just watch this little blue light, right? Just watch this light and then watch what it does and I'll explain what it is. So that, my friends, is what is called a plasma pistol. And like every single weapon in 40k, it gets bigger depending on how much you need. So the plasma pistol, insane range already, and it blew the entire thing up to pieces. They get better from a plasma gun to a plasma cannon. And the issue with the entire concept of plasma weapons is, despite being incredibly powerful, like in Halo, they have been known to overheat. The issue, though, is that unlike in 40k, where they unlike in Halo where they overheat, they burn your hand. In 40k, if a plasma gun overheats, it fucking explodes. So these are robot guys. Their eyes were glowing, and from that we can kind of infer, or at least you guys should be able to infer it. They have some sort of powers going on with them. And so to compare 40k to Star Wars in a way, there is something similar to the Force. The difference with the Force and what 40k has is the Force is predominantly neutral slash kind of benign, whereas in 40k magic or supernatural powers comes from the warp, and the warp is almost entirely malicious. Like it is almost like actively predatory and deliberately malicious. This guy still has a fucking baton because he likes to fucking hit people. Fucking asshole. How this guy fucking dies brutally. But yeah, so the Space Marines are surrounding them because Space Marines have often been compared to wolves. Like in one of the books in the First Heretic, Argel Tal, I believe, mentions that the Space Marines fight like wolves. They work as a unit, surround the enemy, and then use focused, deliberate, concentrated efforts to take down a stronger, tougher target, which is impressive that Space Marines are fighting targets that are stronger than them in any way. So yeah, that's kind of just how you can kind of view Space Marines in combat. Though not every Space Marine does have that type of technical mentality. Some just like to throw nails in their brain and charge at the enemy and screaming blood for the blood god. So bolters aren't just single fire, they can be burst fire and fully automatic. So fully automatic missile gun. Yeah, right here. So force field. This isn't actually force field. In 40k, these are called kind shields. And these are basically shields of energy, kind of like in 40k, magic isn't called magic, it's called psychic powers, which very similar to like real world and like the Matrix. Basically, you're able to use your mind to, create force fields to move things with your mind. In some cases, it does kind of border on magic, with people literally being able to create and cast firestorm. But like at the end of the day, it is basically just psychic powers with magic kind of. Though at the end of the day, it is basically just magic with like some psychic powers thrown in. Like you could think of psychers as anything from like space. Like there isn't much a psyker can do if they put the right mind to it. And you can almost argue that almost anything could be a psychic power, with some people actually even using psychic powers to improve their capacity for combat physically. Like there's a specific space marine whose power for clairvoyance is so exceptional, it makes him a duelist among all other duelists. Like he is the best single duelist combatant because he can always see what his opponent's going to do and counter those moves. And so there you have the delayed explosion time of the bolters. So again, these things impact, and then instead of exploding on contact, they stay in the air for a couple seconds before immediately exploding. Right here, this is one of my favorite parts. So Space Marines are scary. Not only are they big, not only are they strong, but they are scary fast. Like I believe a conservative estimate is Space Marines can run 70 miles per hour. Like I believe that's a conservative estimate. Which if you guys don't know what 70 miles per hour means, that's as fast as a fucking cheetah. Like I believe people have done the measurements and like they can reach as fast as 110 in one case. And I'm pretty sure Sigismund cut a bolter in half, which is not a bolter, a bolt round. And if you guys don't know how fast bolt rounds fire at, which I mean I haven't specified, bolters travel 5 times faster than sound, and Sigismund cut a round in half before it hit him. That means he has to have been moving as fast as the fucking bolt round was flying. So these guys are crazy fast. And the thing is that because they're so fast, the human brain literally can't perceive it. Like, yeah, you can see it, but your brain can't understand something that big moving that fast. It is literally like a hippo or a rhino. You think these things are slow because they're so big, but the moment you see them in full sprint, you just lose it because you literally can't. Like, there's people who have seen Space Marines running and have thrown up because it makes them that violently uncomfortable. So that was a psychic power. That was those robot guys using their powers to just literally kill those two space marines. I don't think they die. I think they survive, kind of. But yeah, they do get hit by force powers, and that's kind of what you could. That's just a taste of what psychic powers are capable of. So this would be telekinesis right here. This would basically be freezing him in motion, right? He's just using his mind to literally stop the space marine and keep him pinned. So kind of like force choke. So there were his team, his brothers opening fire on the first guy in order to try and distract him and save their commander. Because this guy right here, this guy who was actually leading the attack, who was charging into them, he is actually the sergeant, so he's the leader, and you can tell he is because he has a plasma weapon. He ditched his gun earlier, but you can kind of tell a person's rank, or at least a Space Marine's rank, by what they're equipped with. So if a Space Marine ever has like an unorthodox weapon, like a plasma pistol, they are usually a sergeant, captain, or some other higher ranking individual. And that's typically because those weapons are highly rare and highly powerful. Like if I remember correctly, for every one plasma pistol you can make 100 bolters. Like those guns at the start, that those big guns, like it's not a pistol, like not one of these like little small pistols here. No, those big guns that the Space Marines are using, you can make 100 of those for one plasma pistol. So this again is one of my favorite parts right here, is the Space Marine actually manages to pierce through his shield and actually get a and is actually able to get a couple shots on him. Because again, this is a kind shield, so there is actually a limited amount of space. It doesn't like cover your body like to the skin. It's more of a bubble that surrounds your body. But he's just getting fucked up. I love that part. I love that part so much. The Space Marine's going so fast. He's running so fast, and it manages to actually get deliver the killing blow on these guys. It is such an expert like display of how Space Marines fight in their movement. Like, if I can't get you this way, I'll use this. If I can't use this, I'll immediately move to this. Like just the fluidity, the effortlessness, just the sheer experience in their movements really demonstrates just how skilled Space Marines are. So they're destroying these cables, right? But what I'm more interested in is the moment before the cables are cut. Right there, that wave right there. So what I believe that was a psychic link. So when someone has psychic powers, they are called a psyker. So this guy right here would be a psyker. The other guy would also be a psyker. Now, what happens is that it is uncommon for psychers, for two or more psychers, to form what's called a soul bond. So what happens? These two psychers basically pool their power together, and they both are able to draw off the same pool of power, but are able to use each other to help focus their powers. So, for example, let's say you want to cast Fireball, but you weren't very proficient in casting Fireball, but you soul bonded with someone who was an expert at casting Fireball. You would be able to cast Fireball with the combined skill of both yourself and your partner, making you an expert at casting the same spell. The problem, though, is that whenever this happens, if one of you is killed, this creates a psychic feedback that actually damages everyone else in the soul bond. So we're back to the spaceships. This is once again the strike cruiser, and there's the enemy ship. Though I honestly thought they would be reversed. I thought the enemy ship was actually closer to the planet than the Space Marine ship was. So this is the Space Marine ship's command deck. So this is a Space Marine, right? And they're watching the entire thing unfold because their helmets, not only do they have all those sensor equipment that I mentioned before, but Space Marine helmets are also able to feed back a visual link of whatever the Space Marine is seeing back to the command ship. So every single Space Marine is seeing something different, and all that information is being relayed back to the command ship. This makes it so that High Command is able to actually react and respond to situations as they evolve and develop. Oh, also, down here, these are regular humans, right? these are chapter serfs, but it actually looks like I can kind of tell that they have the eye symbol on them, so these guys are members of the Inquisition as well. Beaky helmet. We'll get to the beaky helmet in a second. I love the beaky helmets. So these pieces of paper here are called purity seals. They're they're kind of like Bible verses put on really thin pieces of paper and then are wax sealed to things. And what purity seals are, they are basically like they're basically a superstition in the Imperium that kind of work. In 40k, superstition and belief works. So when people write these purity seals that say like no evil shall pass this point, and they put it on a door frame, those things do to a point actually keep evil out. Now it won't stop like say a monster like a demon or like some other kind of like supernatural force from passing it. But it might make it so that the demon or the monster, whatever is like trying to get in there, won't actually notice it. But at the end of but when you have this many purity seals on a wall, you know that whatever is at the end of that hallway is something very dangerous and something that is very, very powerful and something you need a lot of protection from. Like a lot of protection. Like for reference, Space Marines usually only have one or two purity seals on them, with these usually being like promises of valor, promises of excellence, things that they are swearing to themselves and to their brothers to accomplish. And so like to them it's like a motivational speech. But when you have this many, you're trying to keep something out or keep something in. And this is what they are trying to keep in. Now, it's never been confirmed what this is, but I believe this is some sort of like Xeno, like an alien artifact that is able to connect to the warp, which is the dimension where magic comes from and the place that is openly predatory and malicious. I've seen people mention this is an alien itself, like this is just an actual alien, and that's just the form that it possesses because there's lore of aliens in Warhammer 40k that look exactly like this. But I don't know too much about that specific alien species, so I can't comment on it either way, and I wouldn't feel confident in like saying, "Oh, that's what this is for sure." So once again, we have the symbol of the Inquisition. So again, this is a member of, the Spanish Inquisition that no one expects, and he has a very important job to do. He's praying. I'm mostly joking. In 40k again, prayer actually works, like belief works. And what this guy is doing, he is praying, he's burning incense, and he is a part robot. He's a cyborg. But unlike servitors who lose their mind, he's probably incredibly augmented by all this technology. And so he is actually linked in with the ball thing right here. He is actually literally like connect his brain is wired and connected to this thing right here. And he's praying in an effort to both communicate with it, learn from it, and kind of keep it trapped. Because again, all these chains and everything on it, this thing cannot be allowed to move. It cannot be allowed to move. So the white helmets, these are typically a sign of rank within a Space Marine chapter. So white helmets usually mean that these people are veterans, but they have symbols on their helmets. So if you have, say, just a clean white helmet, then you're probably a veteran. But if you have a white helmet with like markings or other type of engravings on it, that probably means you're part of the chapter's high command. So these guys are like captains, lieutenants, really high-ranking senior officers. On top of that, this guy has a beaky helmet, which, while I've been told looks a little stupid, it's also quite advanced because while Space Marine helmets already have their own like natural sensors inside of it, the beak helmet has even more sensors. So it looks stupid for a reason. That's basically all of 40k. All 40k can be described as this is stupid, but it gives you a pretty awesome reason why, and then you kind of just accept it. So this is a gold robot person, and this is one of the reasons why I mentioned it might be a man of gold, because again, it's a in ancient 40k lore, the men of gold were golden robot people. That's kind of all you guys need to know about them. And that's kind of just what they are being referenced here. They're just kind of a throwaway reference to old lore. So this is a ball of not okayness, probably another alien artifact, and it is actually trying to resist the Space Marines coming to intercept it.
Astartes.
So you can hear it. It calls them Astartes, and that is that is a proper way to describe Space Marines. They are called Astartes. And so every single one of those blows is it actually firing a psychic blast at them to try and resist, like again, to resist them. So these are what I imagine are what are they called? They're neural links. They're basically they're spikes that Space Marines and other cyborg individuals, the Mechanicus, will actually embed into technology and living matter to actually gain an in-depth understanding of it. These basically like hack the system of whatever they're embedded into. And so the purpose of these is actually to create a link between the sphere, the Inquisitor robot person. He has a proper name, obviously, and then you have the alien orb that's also on the Space Marine spacecraft. So now, because there's a link between him, the sphere, and the artifact, he's actually getting pulled into it as he's basically sitting in on a conversation between the orb and the artifact. So he heard all of that. He understood the conversation between them, and he immediately tells this captain or lieutenant, basically to warn the Space Marines on the ship that they are in danger. Unfortunately, it comes a little too late. So this artifact here, alongside the power it possesses, has just linked into him and has actually taken him over. And you guys are going to see what possession in Warhammer 40k looks like. Yeah, so that stuff is what a possessed individual sees. All that horrific imagery that we just saw, that is what is going through the mind of someone who's possessed, and that's what they are experiencing almost constantly. And that light is basically psychic energy pouring out of his body to try and rip itself free and tear him apart from the inside out as well. That part's always funny. I always find this part hilarious because he just punches them in the he just like he gets punched in the face, and then while he's down, the Space Marine just, triple taps him a couple times. But realistically, that's honestly pretty fair because in Warhammer 40k, once you're possessed by a demon, by an extra dimensional force, that thing knows everything about you, including everything you know up to that point, everything around you. So oftentimes, if you get possessed, you become a liability to your own war effort because they learn everything about you. And not only that, but when you are possessed, you become a really tough motherfucker to put down. Like 3 or 4 rounds from a bolter probably wouldn't have killed him, honestly, especially if you're playing on the tabletop where demon princes have fucking like 12 wounds or some shit. Like honestly, they could have done more damage to make sure this guy stayed dead. So this spaceman just got the warning of what's happening on the ship, but once again, it's too late. Oh, I love that part. So the artifact has a demon in it. It's probably some sort of vault or something to contain the demon. But you see right here, this is the demon's shape. This is its form. And this is such a cool part. This is such a fantastic, like, final bit of the animation. You get to see what the demon looks like in its horrific imagery. You can see it's almost like really demonic and humanoid nature. But then you get the really existential shit of seeing it pull away, right? Watch this. That's so fucking terrifying, and that is something that a lot of people in 40k face on probably the daily. So again, because I'm not really sure what this artifact is outside of potentially a vault of some kind for the demon, this isn't something that really happens. But I'm assuming what it is doing is it's trying to absorb the Space Marines. Now again, this isn't something that is in common 40k lore, so I'm going to assume that it is just some sort of artifact that's trying to trap or pull the Space Marines in. But given where they end up, that's a question for like the creator to really answer, honestly. So his plasma pistol just backfired and totally blew off his arm. Yeah, that's what happens. I'm gonna assume the plasma pistol blew up because that's basically what happens when it self-destructs. And yeah, totally obliterated his arm. And it's one of the reasons why on the tabletop, I love when Space Marine models have a robot arm holding a plasma pistol. I always find that so fucking hilarious. So where the Space Marine is, I'm not quite sure. But I've always gone on the assumption that they are inside the warp, which again is where all magic comes from. And like I said, it's very predatory. But half the time, it isn't just the dimension itself that's predatory. There are things inside that are just as vile and just as evil. So let's take a look at just a couple of things that live in the warp. That scene is so cool. First there's nothing, and then there's something, and then it's back again, and it just envelops his whole arm, right? And then there's his team, every single one of them being trapped by this monster, this thing that was inside this ball, and they are probably inside the warp. This light behind here is probably honestly the chaos gods fighting. Like I wouldn't be surprised if the warp is almost perpetually black, but the only thing that lights it up are the chaos gods duking it out in combat. And what we are seeing here is literally just this is literally a small fish in a massive ocean of monsters. And whatever that was, I don't fully know. My thought has always been it's been another monster that attacks it, right? Like a second beast that attacks it. But like you don't know. That could have just been like an attack from something else, right? Like the warp is a fucked up place. And he's somewhere, right? He has arrived. And here's the massive long, like short sword sized knife that Space Marines have. Again, he's missing an arm, but there's no more blood coming out of it. We'll get to that in a second, right? So this is really cool animation detail. So you can actually notice his blood almost instantly drying on the ground. That's because Space Marines are designed to heal faster, like I said, like Wolverine. So even their blood can actually cauterize a lot faster. Not really cauterize. It basically like solidifies a lot faster and scabs over almost instantly. So that's why it almost instantly dries. This thing right here is just like some augmentics on his head so he can better link in with his helmet. But like as cool as all this is, as interesting as this is, and why his arm doesn't have any blood, the really interesting part that always makes people really hyped about the animation is this end part coming up. Ah, but wait, I'm gonna blue balls you here. So these things right here are called service studs. These represent how many years a Space Marine is of service. Silver studs means 50 years. Gold studs means 100 years. So this guy has 3 silver studs. So he's been a Space Marine for 150 years. And before you ask, yes, Space Marines live a very long time. I think the maximum age Space Marines have been able to live is 4,000 years, but typically at around 1,000 years they started to look really old. And like again, the Space Marine who was 4,000 years old was a very special case. Very, very, very rarely would a Space Marine ever live that old. And this part right here. So many people are so invested in what the fuck this actually is. Where is he, right? Like everyone asks the questions. Where is the Space Marine? Where is he? For me, I think he's with Dad. I literally think that this is the afterlife. I think that this is the heaven of Warhammer 40k. I think that when a Space Marine dies or when a loyal Imperial soldier dies, the Emperor, who is a skeleton on a throne, a dead god on a throne, welcomes them into basically his realm, right? Because like even this looks like two gates. Like it looks like gates opening up, like the pearly gates. But I think that every single one of these statues is a fragment of the Emperor. Because in Warhammer lore, in Warhammer 40k lore, the Empire, the Imperium of Mankind, is ruled over by my father, the God Emperor of Mankind, and he is a skeleton on a throne. But what led to him becoming a skeleton on a throne was him getting to a fight so deadly that his mind, his soul, his very like being fractured. It fractured across time and space. And the only thing that's left sitting on the throne, like there's the emperor, his physical body is sitting on a throne in the real world on Terra, on Earth. And then you have all the slivers of his mind that were either scattered, destroyed, or killed that are lost. And I think that's what every single one of these represents. And I think that the Space Marine here is not him in the warp. He's not in hell or anything like that. I think he's joining the Emperor. I think he's coming to the Emperor's side. And that is honestly how I choose to interpret it. Like, yeah, I'm sure some people are going to be like, "What? No, he's in the deepest circle of hell. He is dying horribly. He's at Slanish's gates." No, in my opinion, this is the afterlife. This is what humans have to look forward to if they're a God-fearing imperial citizen. You get to go to this place. So that is the Astartes animation. I had a lot of fun breaking this down. I'm not sure how long this video is coming out to. Oh, almost an hour. Wow, that is pretty typical, honestly, for what I'm able to do. I tried to go for half an hour. I'm sorry. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I meant to break this down a bit more quickly than normal. But if you guys like what I'm doing here, and if you guys aren't familiar with my content, maybe take a look at my channel. I usually do a lot of homebrews, so basically like helping people make their own factions in 40k. You know, what makes your faction special? Because I think that's what makes 40k the most interesting and the most fun it can be. I also cover some discussions when it comes to other topics of the lore, including recent updates and changes to the additions. Sometimes I might cover rules, but I mostly just stick to the story and lore side. And if you guys want to support me, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Make sure YouTube's Machine Spirit hears our prayers and sees our growing community. And if you guys really want to support me, maybe check out my Patreon. You guys get access to videos early, usually like a week early if I can. Priority voting when it comes to topics I want to discuss on my channel. Guys get talk to me one on one if you can. I'm looking to do more stuff with my patrons as well as get finally get my Discord up and running. It's literally like almost done being built. I'm literally just kind of finishing some channels up. I want to get my Discord up and running. It should be up sometime by the end of the month of September, so keep a lookout for that. And if you guys have any questions or any other animations you guys would like to see me cover, break down, this could even be trailers, right? Like even just like, like the Horus Heresy 3rd edition trailer. I could break that down if you guys wanted me to. But at the end of the day, I've got nothing else to say, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Bye.